Oh, no.
Hi. Oh, honey, how thoughtful of you.
You know me. Plants don't need as much water in the fall and winter, so I decided to get up early and turn it down.
You bringing your golf clubs to my mother's?
Yeah.
Take control of your controller. Turn it down.
Hi, I'm Becky Davis with City TV. Welcome to Inside Santa Barbara, the city's only news magazine show. We bring you up to date on the city's most significant issues, projects, and events. Dedicated to serve, that's the motto of the Santa Barbara Police Department, who protect and serve our city through the practice of community-oriented policing. One way they're doing this is through an innovative new program that brings police and students together to develop relationships and engage in meaningful dialogue.
So the bottom line is police and civilian community do not often have a place to discuss important issues where there's not a crisis happening. Aligning Perceptions is a course that was designed to bring police officers in a classroom with college students. And the police officer's role is to be a student. You know, traditionally police officers are brought into classrooms to be guest speakers. But what I really wanted to accomplish here was have the police officers acting as students and participating as students. To really create that intergroup contact so that you have two different groups that identify differently in society, you know, police officers being an arm of law enforcement and the students, you know, being enrolled in college. And to have these two groups interact and work through critical thinking exercises together, I believe accomplishes a lot of the dialogue that's important to break down barriers.
Like, we're literally not doing anything. We're just at a gas station, pulled over to start like wiping ice cream, and he like assumed that we were like doing things.
So what could he have done different so that you wouldn't have had such a negative experience?
I volunteered for the class because I believe that it's important as a law enforcement officer that we're able to engage with members of the public, and Santa Barbara having a heavy, school background with UCSB and Santa Barbara City College, there are a lot of students here that may not have the ability to talk to a police officer, in their everyday lives. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to come in and be able to share experiences, maybe hear their perspective on things, also have the time to then share, maybe some of the reasons why we do the things that we do so that they maybe have a better understanding of things occurring and maybe think about it maybe a little bit differently when they see something on the news and maybe have a different, perspective having had interaction with police officers.
The study of intergroup communication is about how when people come together and interact, they don't deal with each other as individual personalities with idiosyncratic temperaments. They deal with each other solely in terms of their group memberships. So you see a cop and you deal with that guy as a prototypical cop. You don't see them as John or whatever, and vice versa with the citizen. And it works for many, many intergroup situations. We're not talking to each other's heart, soul, and minds. We're talking to each other in terms of their social category memberships, and hence there's stereotypes involved and can lead to all sorts of unfortunate miscommunications.
You know, for some time now, we here at SBCC, which reflects the general society at large, we've seen a slow and steady breakdown of trust, public trust between law enforcement and the criminal justice system and our students and society at large. And when approached to do this program, we realized that this was a unique and innovative, perhaps even a groundbreaking program that really works to try to bring together students and law enforcement in a way that they can begin to understand each other in a context that they probably have not been able to talk with each other about or understand.
As part of the class, students are placed into focus groups with an officer participating in each group. The groups are provided a case study and work to develop a sentencing plan for the convicted person in the scenario. In developing a sentence, the focus groups will take into consideration crime causations, Eighth Amendment protections, current societal norms, sentencing goals, and rules of the California court. The facilitated dialogue allows the group to use critical thinking skills while interacting with one another.
Students, they learn in their textbooks, they see on television, social media, and what have you, what tend to be stereotypical depictions of the relationship between law enforcement in particular and the public at large. And here it's going to be what I hope is a complete breakdown of those barriers, those stereotypes, and everybody will come to a place where we understand each other a little bit more, and that should, in an ideal world, foster better communication between law enforcement and the public it serves.
So we are here because we have the luxury of a nice, safe academic environment. We're discussing criminal justice, we're discussing societal problems, and we can create some intergroup dialogue between everybody in this class and our temporary students that have volunteered to come here.
I feel like a lot of us are scared to report stuff sometimes, or just kind of actually like come into contact with a police officer just because of everything that's going on around the world. But I think that this experience really helps us understand that they're genuinely there to help us, but just again, society has made it look so bad. So I think it is a really good experience.
I'm a big fan in community policing, and I feel like for that to ever happen, you need police officers to talk to and form a discussion with. It's always seen in the media that we see cops either doing something bad, or the person that was the victim or it's just something always, there's a miscommunication, and I feel like for this to ever be resolved, or for there to ever be a solution for this, you need two people talking to each other, and I feel like this is really helpful.
I hope that they just hear us out more, maybe just understand where I think we both all need to understand where each other are coming from, so that's why it's good that we're put in the same classroom so that we're eligible to do so. So just being able to understand each other's concerns and work forward from there.
You know, it's been interesting. It's been a really good experience to actually be around them, because I mean, that's not something that people get to have all that often, just having officers around that they can actually just talk to without it being like in a really formal situation.
You can't build a relationship without a dialogue, right? So I think it's really important that now we've created the environment for the dialogue, so now it's just important that we come in and that, you know, we're honest and we kind of open up a bit and, you know, kind of throw a lot of the preconceived, you know, bias notions, whatever, out the window, and really take the conversations at face value, because once you have that open dialogue, you can start building a relationship. Recognizing we may have differences in thoughts and opinions, but also recognizing there are other perspectives out there, and at least being willing to take those on and listen to them may maybe affect the way I go out, you know, further and do the job, and also may affect how they see law enforcement later.
It's different from like accidentally elbowing someone in the face and like actually trying to hit them, but at the same time, he has to take responsibility for like he's trying to get away.
As we move forward into the next era of policing, law enforcement can make great gains with the community by embracing the pillars of procedural justice. This model makes actionable the tenets of procedural justice by providing voice to both civilian community and sworn officers, creating an atmosphere of respect, and by facilitating the exercise in the classroom, creates neutrality in the conversation.
This program embraces everything that we need to create the dialogue that brings in trust and neutrality, respect within the voids, if you will, in our society. Police officers have been thought of as an opposing force. This classroom dialogue brings people to the table with their individual filters, and we get to work through and create a common ground that really opens the door to trust and legitimacy in everything we do.
I think that this program can be a model for other agencies and colleges to adopt, so that we are working on engaging our young adults in our society more and having a more meaningful dialogue with law enforcement. And I think that can create quite a bit of a culture change in how we continue forward. So I hope that this can be a model that other agencies and academic institutions can adopt in the future.
To participate in the Aligning Perceptions class, contact the Justice Studies program at Santa Barbara City College. Whether you drive, take the bus, ride a bike, or walk, there are a number of ways to get from point A to point B in Santa Barbara. Up next, learn about the latest transportation option the city just added to the mix. If you're interested in the benefits of having access to a vehicle without the costs and responsibilities of auto ownership, the city may have just the solution for you. It's called car sharing, and it's a convenient new transportation option in Santa Barbara that has been tested with great success in many other cities in California.
What's interesting about the car share program is usually our residents are hearing about alternative transportation, take the bus, ride your bike, be a pedestrian. Car share is a car solution to the problem. And many people kind of tweak about that. Why are you introducing a car element to it? Well, it turns out that car is the #1 form of transportation in Santa Barbara, and people will need to use it. And therefore, it gives that resident a little bit more security to not own a car because they always have one available to them.
The city recently entered into a contract with Zipcar, one of the world's largest car-sharing networks, to bring new transportation options to Santa Barbara residents and visitors.
When we wanted to introduce car share into the city of Santa Barbara, we needed a partner who would scale up the program and adjust the program and locations in short order. And Zipcar fits that build. They actually are backed by a rental car company, so they have many cars available and can very quickly ramp up and scale the program to our needs and to our residents' needs.
You know, the beauty about Zipcar is that it's a transportation option for everybody, every demographic. So from the college universities to mom and dad to individuals just coming into the city on vacation that don't have a vehicle. So it's open to any demographic. Anybody that can sign up, be approved, they can be a member.
Since April, Zipcar has been providing hourly and daily self-service car rentals to members at 9 new locations downtown.
It's interesting, Zipcar is already in the community. They have cars at Westmont College, at Santa Barbara City College, in Isla Vista, and at the Santa Barbara Airport. So this particular program is bringing Zipcars into downtown Santa Barbara. So we've got a couple of our city garages on Ortega Street, at Anacapa, Lot 10, and at the Granada Garage near the Granada Theater at Lot 6. We've also got 5 other on-street locations, one on the east side, one on the west side. We've also got Cottage Hospital has a location. And then the lower west side of downtown, along the Chapala and De La Vina corridors, there'll be 3 cars located there to kind of serve a combination of the downtown and the lower west side of downtown neighborhoods.
The city worked closely with Zipcar to strategically determine each new location.
We looked at a lot of different variables, including how Zipcar has been successful in other cities. They're the ones who really have a lot of experience. From the city planning side, we definitely wanted to be able to serve our denser residential neighborhoods where we have on-street parking issues and people may want to consider using Zipcar as their second or third car, or even their primary car if they don't own a car. But we also want to be able to serve downtown. So there's a lot of folks who come into downtown Santa Barbara and they may commute with someone else, they may take the bus, and they may want a car to run some errands during the day or do some shopping. So we're looking to kind of target all of those users.
In order to use Zipcar, you must first apply to become a member at zipcar.com.
So it's a membership-based program, so members go online and they sign up, and once approved, they receive a Zip card. They make a reservation online at a computer or smartphone, and they choose their designated vehicle for time and place. So we include gas and insurance in part of the rates. Our rates start as low as $7 an hour and upwards depending on the make and model of the car.
In addition to the hourly rates, members also pay a monthly fee of $7 or an annual fee of $70 and have access to Zipcars worldwide. From sedans to hybrids to vans and more, members can choose the size and model of vehicle they want when making a reservation. Once you've reserved your Zip card, simply go to your designated location, hold up your Zip card to the windshield, or tap Unlock on the app, and you're ready to drive. When your reserved amount of time is up, return the Zip card to its designated location and lock up using your Zip card or the Zipcar app. Always be sure to take your belongings with you and leave at least a quarter of a tank for the next Zipcar user. If you need to fill up, simply use the fuel card provided inside the vehicle.
We say that every Zipcar reduces about 13 to 15 vehicles on the road. If you think about that from a congestion standpoint, it's huge. You know, part of congestion is people driving around looking for parking. With Zipcar, like this space here, it's a fixed parking space. So when I return, I don't have to drive around. I come back to this location, I park my car. So we reduce congestion, reduce personally owned vehicles on the road, and we allow people to save about $600 because they don't have to put that money towards having that second vehicle in the family.
Although there are currently only 10 Zipcars located downtown, Zipcar closely monitors data to determine if more vehicles should be added to a location or if there is enough demand in other parts of the city to expand to in the future. Vehicles can also be shifted from a low-use area of Santa Barbara to a new location where demand may exist.
Our members give us feedback, hey, have you thought about this location? You thought about this location? And we see where the growth happens. And that's how we shift to meet demand. So today, 3 months from now, this might not be a location where we're going to be at because our members are actually traveling 2 miles to get to here. We might bring the car closer to where they are.
By implementing this new car share program, the city hopes to reduce problems like congestion and limited on-street parking in the downtown corridor and neighborhoods that may be impacted by the new average unit density program.
Our neighborhoods have been filling up with parking on street, and it's been challenging for some neighborhoods. We have older residences that didn't provide all their off-street parking. Car share offers the opportunity for people in those neighborhoods who want to use alternative transportation to potentially shed one of their cars. Car share gives them that stability so that when the folks in that residence need 2 cars, they have that availability. But most of the time they can just rely on one. That inevitably is going to free up parking on street.
I too live in a city where parking's at a premium, right? And there was a little bit of angst for me when they wanted to come to my neighborhood, Zipcar, to take away my street parking. But once I understood and my neighbors started sharing that vehicle and realized it's actually a community benefit. You know, it doesn't impact the congestion within the community. It actually serves as an additional transportation option within the city. So if you have mom or dad or somebody that returns from a university or just somebody that's around helping out the household, they can all use this particular vehicle that's open to the community.
To learn more about Zipcar or to become a member, visit zipcar.com. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
I grew up here. I've made memories here, and I love being able to drive around knowing that this is my community. I'm helping my community.
We care, and we want to make this community a better place.
This career is for someone who wants to be challenged deep down inside to better a community.
It's the best job in the world. It really is. It's like a dream come true. Join your home team.
Welcome back. Our foothills are one of Santa Barbara's most beautiful and distinctive features, but this area is also prime terrain for wildfires. Up next, we see how emergency personnel train for these destructive and inevitable aspects of life on the South Coast.
Wildland fires. They are a terrible yet inevitable consequence of the weather and topography of our area. On April 12th, fire departments from Carpinteria to Cambria converged on Santa Barbara to practice responding to this type of all too familiar disaster.
What we're doing for this drill is preparing our firefighters and emergency responders, such as police department and sheriff's department, in preparation for the upcoming wildland fire season. The crews today are receiving training in everything from structure defense, which is where we go in and protect homes in the event of an oncoming wildland fire, as well as training surrounding helicopter operations, hoist capabilities, crew capabilities within wildland fires with the helicopters, and as well as training on the ground simulating hose lays and protection of those resources that we have in our communities.
That word communities is key here. Since no single fire department has the resources to handle large-scale emergencies, municipalities team up during these events in what is called mutual aid. So in addition to tactical exercises, this drill was a rehearsal for the extraordinary coordination required to keep all the responders on the same page.
We're pulling on those resources to work together. It's another opportunity for us to understand the different departments, get a feel for the orientation for the different layouts, so we get familiar, because we recognize just the same as they're going to come down here, we also have a high probability of going up in their areas to protect and help them in an emergency.
For the structure defense portion of the drill, fire crews fanned out into surrounding neighborhoods to practice structure triage, much like EMTs use to assess accident and disaster victims.
They look at things such as access and their water availability and defensible space. They also want a safe place to stay, because we're always looking at worst case scenarios and what happens if that fire does advance there.
And with more rain this year, potential fuel for these types of fires is abundant.
We've seen a tremendous increase in the grass growth. So there is a high likelihood, while we may feel comfortable in all this rain that we've gotten from our threat from wildland fire, there's a high likelihood that what we're going to see this year is a lot of fast-growing, fast-moving fires that are carried quickly through this grassland and advance into our drier, brushier areas.
And this is where we come in. Residents play a crucial role in these wildland fire scenarios and how they protect their property using what is called defensible space.
Defensible space is the #1 tool that homeowners themselves can use to protect their structure. Here in Santa Barbara County and Santa Barbara City, we have different criteria for defensible space. The area behind me, defensible space, is 100 feet out from the structure. And when we look at defensible space, that doesn't mean moonscaping the property and voiding it of all vegetation. So at the 100 feet, what we're looking at for defensible space is being strategic with that vegetation. Clearing dead vegetation, removing ladder fuels. The vegetation that gets closer to the house, we want that more green, we want it more irrigated, so that it stands a smaller chance of catching fire and advancing that fire towards the structure during an actual wildland fire.
Fortunately, residents in the high fire hazard areas of the city have a number of resources to increase the survivability of their homes in a wildland fire.
I think in the foothill high fire hazard areas, we have the Wildland Fire Suppression Assessment District, and one of the programs we offer through that district is voluntary defensible space inspections. Homeowners can call voluntarily, and we will have somebody come out and provide them education. We'll do a walk around their structure, around their property, and look at what they can do to enhance their defensible space and even enhance their building to make sure that their home is survivable.
So while we can hope to never see another wildland fire in Santa Barbara, we must prepare for the worst, just like our first responders do.
Because it's guaranteed we're going to have another one here in the city. It's only a matter of time, unfortunately, and we want to make sure that those residents here in our city do the most that they can to be protected.
For more information about defensible space and the resources available, visit santabarbaraca.gov/wildland. Do you know what a watershed is? Do you know how watersheds affect our quality of life? Up next, City TV's Chris Bell explains the critical role watersheds play in our lives and the many ways the city's Creeks Division is improving them.
Watersheds. We all live in one and consequently are all affected by their health. A watershed is simply an area of land where all of the water that falls in it and drains off of it goes to a common outlet. In a completely natural environment, watersheds meander to a low point, which in our case is the Pacific Ocean. Watersheds filter pollutants from water while providing habitat for lots of animals, as well as recreational opportunities for us. But as watersheds are urbanized, things begin to change.
What the scientists have said is once you cover a watershed, any watershed, with 10 to 15% of impervious surfaces, usually accompanied with urban development, you're going to get degradation in both water quality and habitat.
With the amount of impervious surface coverage of the 4 major watersheds in the city ranging from 20 to nearly 50%, creek degradation used to be a fact of life.
Water quality was pretty impacted. At Arroyo Burro Beach, there were a lot of water quality warnings, and we had high nutrient levels in some of the different creek locations that we tested.
In the fall of 2000, Santa Barbarans concerned about the poor condition of our creeks and ocean proposed and passed Measure B, a tax on hotel visitors with a specific purpose.
To provide funding to restore city creeks, one major thing, and the second is to improve water quality in the city creeks. And people got galvanized around the idea of, is there a way we can try to clean these creeks up and improve water quality and improve habitat?
In the 17 years since, the city's Creeks Division has found many ways to do just that. To provide an example, let's take a look at the Arroyo Burro watershed.
Arroyo Burro isn't that different from our other developed watersheds in terms of the types of pollutants we're concerned about and even the quantities of pollutants that we're concerned about. But Arroyo Burro does offer much more opportunity for restoration and water quality improvement than some of our more developed areas like Mission Creek. What's great about the Arroyo Burro watershed is that we now have projects from almost the top of the city part of the watershed to the bottom by the estuary.
At the upper section of the watershed within the city is the Barger Canyon project, a restoration project completed late last year.
And that was a 14-acre parcel that the city purchased in order to preserve it, prevent development, and basically restore the creek section there, because it included over 2,000 linear feet of creek channel, and it's in the upper watershed where you're near other good habitat.
The midsection of the watershed is smack dab in the center of town and therefore is covered in a lot of impermeable surfaces. But there's one large exception, the Santa Barbara Golf Club. The Creeks Division took full advantage of this space in the Upper Las Positas Creek Restoration and Stormwater Management Project.
We did over 5 acres of restoration on the golf course, planted close to 10,000 plants, restored 3 separate little creek channels, and then installed 2 basins to try to improve water quality, detention basins. And they serve as wetlands pretty much year-round. They're pretty important for wildlife now. A lot of birds use them, and so they're really good, and they actually help out with water quality. They slow the water down, they reduce the sediment load downstream, and we do think that they're able to take up some of the nitrogen and fertilizers that are used on the golf course also.
2, 3, yay!
At the bottom of the watershed lies one of the first projects done by the Creeks Division, the Arroyo Burro and Mesa Creek Restoration Project.
We removed 300 feet of concrete pipe and opened up the creek channel there, right where it empties into Arroyo Burro Estuary. And then we restored Arroyo Burro Estuary also. This was about an 1.5 acre project. We put in close to 6,000 native plants and again restored that creek channel. It did help improve water quality in the estuary and on the creek.
In addition to the 3 major projects in the Arroyo Burro watershed, the Creeks Division has undertaken numerous smaller projects in between. For instance, when high bacteria levels were detected in Arroyo Burro Creek, Creek staff brought in specialized super sleuths to track down the source.
We tried to find the sources of these human markers using additional testing, and that was tough because it took a long time to get the results back. And so then we brought in 2 sleuths, at that time the world's only sewage sniffing dogs, and working in combination with the microbial source tracking, we were able to use the dogs to find a location where raw sewage was leaking from a sewer line into the storm drain and working its way towards the creek.
Along the watershed, the Creeks Division has also worked to eradicate the invasive native choking arundo plant. And when dog waste was detected in creek water samples, staff responded with good old-fashioned footwork.
We conducted outreach to all of the homeowners that lived along the creek in Arroyo Burro and Las Positas Creek and asked them to really take care of disposing their dog waste properly, making sure none got tossed over any fences into the creek. And then UCSB was able to conduct their sampling again, and we found a dramatic decrease in the levels of the dog markers in the creek.
Today, the Arroyo Burro watershed is in much better shape than it was before Measure B. Pollution and erosion have been reduced, water has been slowed down, allowing natural filtration and groundwater recharge, and habitat has been restored. But the Creeks Division isn't done. Last year, they were instrumental in the purchase of nearly 15 acres of prime creekside property in the Las Positas Valley.
It's a pretty nice big piece of land, and it's over 2,000 feet of a linear creek channel, so we should be able to do some good restoration in that section of the creek.
But with much of the Arroyo Burro watershed being owned by private property owners, the Creeks Division has long been aware of the need to reach and teach the public. And one of the ways they've chosen to do that is to lead by example. Sprinkled around town, including on the Arroyo Burro watershed, are permeable paver projects, which property owners can mimic on a smaller scale.
For one, it reduces all the runoff, and two, it helps to improve water quality by treating that water and getting it down into the ground. And the long-range plan is that over time, when this watershed develops, redevelops, and continues to develop, is that we are able to improve water quality through getting the individual developments to absorb the water on their parcels and on their sites.
So the next time you're enjoying a hike on Hesacita Trail, playing 18 at the Santa Barbara Golf Club, or cooling off at Arroyo Burro Beach, remember you're in a watershed, and that watershed is healthier because of a prescient vote back in 2000.
I think the city and its residents and all the tourists that visit here are incredibly lucky that we have passed Measure B, because what Measure B has done for us is able to spend our water quality improvement money on projects that we think will really make a difference compared to communities that don't have this source of funding. They can barely keep up with the stormwater regulations that are required. And so we can get out in front, and we can also use some of that money to put in pilot projects or conduct pilot research programs. And once we have demonstrated success with those pilot projects, we've been able to go find a lot of grant money to complete larger versions of those pilot projects.
For more information about the Creeks Restoration and Water Quality Improvement Program, check out sbcreeks.com. We'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
It doesn't take a hero to protect our creeks and ocean.
Minutes away. Hours of fun. Enjoy a taste of Santa Barbara. Experience the romance. Stearns Wharf. Playing near you.
Welcome back. Trees are a wonderful and valuable investment for our community. That's why it's so important to keep them healthy even during a drought. Up next, learn how to water your trees effectively while also conserving water.
Hi, I'm Kathy Perret with the City of Santa Barbara's Water Conservation Program. Today we're going to talk about trees, that most beautiful plant that is so valuable for our plants, our animals, our shade. It's a wonderful resource. We're going to talk today about how to efficiently water them, all the way from do-it-yourself projects to what a professional might do to assist you. Let's take a peek at all the parts that are necessary. There's a few parts that are necessary to put together an inline drip system. I'm going to come down, let's show you the most important. We'll start from where the water supply comes in. The water supply is going to come in, your hose is going to hook in, you're going to require a pressure regulator. It can look like this. It'll usually reduce it to 20, 25, or 30 psi. You're going to put a filter system on. This is going to remove any sediment that might be coming from the hose. There's a connector. It's just a thread that allows you to hook up drip tubing to it. It's inline drip. If you look down on the actual tubing itself, you can see some minor little holes and some thickness here. So every 12 inches on this tubing, I have a 1 gallon per hour emitter. I also have this tool out here. This is a soil probe. And the soil probe is going to allow me to actually take a soil sample. These little holes are every 2 inches. So I can take a soil sample maybe 12 inches deep and find out at the deepest point, is the soil still moist down there? So we're going to talk about what's the proper type of tubings, where to place it, and then a little bit about how long to water for your individual trees. It really depends on the type of tree. Sometimes you may actually need to ask a professional, ask an arborist to come by and give you a little bit more information about that tree. It's really important for us to try and provide the water and the nutrients that they need to continue to add value and beauty and shade and habitat in our environments and in our landscapes. We've got all our parts. Let's go mark the tree canopy and put this together. Well, we're over here at the water supply. The first thing I'm thinking about is doing the last little finishing connections to the tubing. I'm going to put a T onto my drip tube so that I can make a circle around the tree. So we're going to cut a hole, cut the pipe. Just using pruning shears works pretty well. Connect it up. Takes a little jiggling to kind of work these together and get them locked in. I'm going to connect a T to this so that as I go around the tree off of one side, the tubing can come all the way back into here. So it'll get water going in, it'll fill the tubing, it'll water all the way around. So we've got ourselves connected here. The next step is to figure out exactly where the drip line is. I like to mark it with flags so that when I'm laying my tubing out, I know that I'm in that prime zone where the plant's going to absorb the water. So with this particular tree, it's easy to see that as the rain is going to fall, it's going to hit these outside branches and it's going to fall directly down. So I would come out and come here and I put my little flag. You don't have to put the line exactly where your flags are because those absorptive roots where the moisture and the nutrients are most beneficial for the plant are within a couple of feet inside the drip line and a couple of feet outside the drip line. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to lay that pipe out, put some little tacks to hold it in place, and then hook it up to the water. So now we're going to use these, they're called stakes, soil stakes. They're going to help hold the pipe down so it doesn't snake away on you. So the easy thing is to do now is we're going to add a T so we can connect up to our water supply. So we detach the extra piece of pipe. We have our T that's hooked up to what we're going to hook to the hose or to our valve. Take one side of this, give it a wiggle and a little bit of push. It's connected. We connect the other side. So we're going to hook this up to a hose. This is going to be our water supply today. We're already set up with our pressure regulator and our filter, which are really necessary to make sure that the drip or the inline or the soaker tubing doesn't put too much water out over time. You can use your meter, and if you check our website, the santabarbaraca.gov/waterwise, there is a video as well as some flyers on how to read your meter just for this application. All right, we're hooked up. Let's turn it on. Today we're using a hose spigot for our water supply. You can hook this up to a valve in your irrigation system so that you can time it automatically if you want. Doesn't matter. So let's give this just a little bit of water. You don't want to crank it on, you just want to turn it on maybe 1/8 to 1/4 of a turn. Take a look at your drip zone, and what you should see is little drips coming out of each of those little emitter tubes, the ones that were every 12 to 18 inches apart. Well, we finished with our drip line connection, so now I'm going to show you a super easy way, do it yourself, that you can use the water that you collect in your shower or in your dish pan to use that to water your tree deep and slowly. In order to make a slow trickle bucket, you need a bucket. And what we're going to do is we're going to drill 4 little holes so that when we put the water in the bucket and set it down in the mulch around it, the water's slowly going to saturate as it's absorbed into the soil. So we've got our holes. Our bucket's prepared. That's all there is to it in this part. We're going to make a little space down here so we can get to the soil, put the mulch around the bucket. We'll place our bucket in contact with the earth underneath, put some mulch around it. We're keeping any evaporation from happening here and allowing it to really slowly soak in. Then we have our bucket from my shower water, and we just add it. Perfect do-it-yourself deep soaker for your tree. For those of you who maybe have seen one of these devices used by an arborist or by city staff out with the trees. This is a deep watering soil probe. It's not something that most people regularly do, but if you have some trees that are distressed, if you see the city workers using this soil probe out on our street trees or in the parks, we're doing that for the health of the trees. So we'll use this to go around the same spot, around the drip line of a tree, applying a really good, deep, sinking watering, really infrequently, about every 4 to 6 weeks.
For more information about tree watering, visit santabarbaraca.gov/tree watering. This year's rains have had many positive impacts on Santa Barbara, but you might be surprised to learn they also increased renewable energy production. Stay tuned as City TV's Chris Bell shows us how.
If you've driven San Roque Road past the Cater Water Treatment Plant, you've likely seen the Laurel Reservoir. You probably know the reservoir plays an important role in the city's water supply. What you may not know is this humble building at its edge houses a key piece of the city's renewable energy portfolio.
The water comes from Gibraltar through Mission Tunnel. When it hits the south portal, it goes into a pipeline, and then that's where the penstock begins, and it basically daylights here at the hydroelectric plant.
You heard correct. The city has its very own hydroelectric plant. It's not a big one, but it uses the same principles as its larger cousins to produce clean, renewable electricity.
We produce power, and we just use water pressure. You elevate that water 500 feet, and you basically produce enough water pressure to turn a Pelton wheel and run a generator.
The hydroelectric plant was originally installed in 1985, but it was idled in 1998 when the costs of plant operation, maintenance, and regulatory compliance exceeded the revenues from power sales. Then, the Hydropower Regulatory Efficiency Act of 2013 streamlined the federal review process, and the city was able to acquire the property the plant sits on. But after the regulatory red tape was cleared, another hurdle developed.
Gibraltar was completely dry last fall.
So, no hydro, no power. But that all changed this year.
We had some rain events this winter which filled the reservoir, and it actually spilt. And we're producing about 400 kilowatts of power a day at this facility. So we're selling the power back to Edison.
Today, the Gibraltar Conduit Hydroelectric Plant is producing enough electricity to power 200 to 300 homes while earning the city $100,000 to $200,000 a year, using simple physics to turn the delivery of one precious resource into the creation of another.
The city continually pursues renewable energy opportunities whenever possible and practical. If you'd like to learn more about the city's renewable energy projects, visit santabarbaraca.gov/sustainability. Stay tuned, we'll be right back with more Inside Santa Barbara.
Oh no.
Hi. Oh, honey, how thoughtful of you.
You know me. Plants don't need as much water in the fall and winter, so I decided to get up early and turn it down.
You bringing your golf clubs to my mother's?
Yeah.
Take control of your controller. Turn it down.
Welcome back. School's out and the city has many opportunities for kids and teens to get into some sunny summertime fun. Mel Weisberger has the details.
For 60 years, the City Parks and Recreation Department has offered fun, safe, and healthy summer camps for kids of all ages. This year, there are over 43 different camps across 18 iconic Santa Barbara locations. Whether you prefer the sand or the sea, Santa Barbara's Parks and Recreation has you covered.
We have a ton of camps that are offered this summer. I think the most popular ones are going to be the Junior Lifeguard Program, as well as the Beach Volleyball Program. Then right behind that is Aqua Camp, Surf Camp for kids, our swim lessons.
While all of the camps offer guaranteed fun and engagement, the Junior Lifeguard Program in particular goes a step farther in teaching water safety and necessary life-saving skills.
It teaches them leadership, teamwork, responsibility, and those guys that go through that program, they stay until they're 15, 16, and then hopefully transition into either being a beach lifeguard, a pool lifeguard, or one of the junior lifeguard instructors.
Amidst endless summer days with friends and activities, campers can also expect to learn about their community and their own environmental impact.
We have a number of speakers come down and talk about environmental issues, as well as sun safety and beach safety, and just being responsible for our environment down here. So it's not just working on our ocean skills and being a good, solid swimmer. It's about being a good, solid person.
The fun isn't limited to kids, though. If you're just looking to get your toes wet, people of all ages can now take swim lessons through Parks and Recreation for an affordable price.
Most of them are geared towards the kids ages 6 months to about 12. And then we just implemented some adult swim lessons this past winter and coming into spring. And then we offer year-round lessons on the private level.
For those wanting to stay on land, the Parks and Recreation Department offers a variety of different camps, from Lego camp to gymnastics camp to skate camp.
Saturday's free skate clinic is basically a time when ages 12 and under can come to the skate park without all the big kids in the park. It's a really good time for the kids to kind of get a feel of how to ride the ramps without all of the traffic that is generally in the skate park. Our staff give them some pointers, and we also provide some loaner skateboards in case the kids don't have the proper equipment.
At about like 15 minutes before the camp actually starts, we clear out the skate park, sweep out all the pebbles, and make sure there's no one there or anything that would distract the kids from their skateboarding.
First-time skaters are also encouraged to join in the fun.
Well, we tell them that we're always going to start slow, and maybe just introduce them to the parts of the skateboard and maybe give them like a brief history. A lot of my instructors are really good with kids and talking to them and helping them kind of get comfortable with the situation. So I usually just have an instructor hang out with them for the first couple minutes while they're here. All the kids love the camp. Every time they leave, they have a big smile on their face. At the end of the week, they always want to come back for summer.
The best part about it is they're great mentors for these kids, so they get to see these positive role models that are our staff. So it's great for the skateboarding community, and it's awesome for the kids that are in it. They love it too.
For parents who are worried about keeping their kids occupied during the long workday, there are extended care programs that can start the fun in the morning and keep it going until you get off work in the evening.
This year we have included a new camp that's called Land and Sea, and that goes from 12 to 5:30, and it helps with the extended care at least in the afternoon. And so let's say for beach volleyball, that ends at noon. If those parents don't have anything else for their kids to do, they can come into our Land and Sea camp, and we have a shuttle that will come and pick them up and get them over there so the parents don't have to come on their lunch break. And then we also do some AM care for some specific camps. So some of those are going to be nature camp, skate camp, Lego camp, but Camp Rad, Aqua Camp, and then Out of Bounds as well.
For more information on the various camps offered or to register, visit sbparksandrec.org. Well, that does it for this episode of Inside Santa Barbara. If you have any questions or comments about the show, you can give us a call at 564-5311. If you missed something, not to worry, you can watch the show online at santabarbaraca.gov/citytv. I'm your host, Becky Davis, and remember to get involved inside Santa Barbara.